Hello, Akron. Home of the very first NFL champions, 97 years ago. You know, to quote my good friend Pete Carroll with the Seattle Seahawks, you got it going on. Okay? I mean, 2 years ago when I first got here, Ohio State, the Buckeyes won the national championship. Now they're number 2 and they're in the hunt again. Then the Cavs win a world championship. Wasn't that spectacular? Okay. Then the RNC comes to town, and Ohio kind of is the one to, lead the way in electing the president-elect, so he owes us, right? And, and then you got the Indians, in the World Series. And now the Cleveland Browns are number 1 for the first round draft choice next year. So, I mean, there's a lot of good things happening, and I will tell you, we were fortunate to have Jimmy and Dee Haslam down at the Hall of Fame yesterday, and I think they're doing a lot of good things. So I would suggest that you buy the Browns, because in a couple of years, when they win, you watch what happens to this region. You're an authentic people, you're a genuine people. I've really enjoyed getting to know Midwesterners in my 2.5 years here, in Northeast Ohio. But the way I got here was a little bit different. I was managing partner of a $1.3 billion integrated health village in Henderson, Nevada. And I was traveling in Atlanta, and a gentleman who happened to be the chairman of the sports division at Corn Ferry called and said, hey, would you be interested in, being the president of the Pro Football Hall of Fame? And I knew my predecessor, and I loved the hall, but I kind of did my best Will Ferrell invitation and said, I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of a big deal. And I respectfully declined. And he said, well, I'm going to send you the job description anyways. And so I took that job description at the end of the day when I'm cleaning up my email like a lot of you, and I, sent it out to my wife, and I said, hey, sweetheart, you'll never guess what happened today. And she called me 15 minutes later, and she said, hey, we're going to go do this. And I said, well, sweetheart, I already told him no. And she said, will you call him back? And I said, well, sweetheart, we got this big project we're doing. And, we've got a lot of our life into it. She said, yeah, but you've done the entitlements, the master plan, the first financing, somebody else can build it now. And I said, sweetheart, I don't know if you know this. You work from Newport Beach, California? I said, darling, it's cold in Ohio. It is colder than you have ever been. And she said, I don't care, we can do this. I said, well, why do you want to do this so bad? And she said, have you read this? And I said, no, I haven't even read it. She said, you got to read this because this is what you believe. I got to tell you, she's the smartest person I know. Because I've got the greatest job in the world, and I've got this thing called the Pro Football Hall of Fame that is an ecumenical church of football. If I was to give you my Christian testimony today, as I've done many times, the minute I say the word church or Bible, I've lost about 40% of you. And then people kind of wonder, well, where does he go to church? And what does he believe? And pretty soon I'm talking to 15%. But I can talk in the context of football about perseverance, about discipline, about commitment, about teamwork, even about love. And when I talk about football, I've got 98, 99% of you who understand what that's about. So this is a great product that you have here. I've got a son that played 8 years at left tackle for the Atlanta Falcons. And when I told him I was thinking about coming to the Pro Football Hall of Fame here in Canton, and when I say Canton, I'm talking about the region around it. He said, Dad, you know what we say about Tony? He was talking about Tony Gonzalez, maybe one of the best tight ends to ever play the game. He'll be eligible in about another 2 years, probably a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He says, we don't say that Tony was the best tight end ever. We don't say he's the best football player ever. We don't even say that he's going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We say he's going to Canton. That's Tony Gonzalez. He's going to Canton. What you have here is an incredible form of excellence at the highest level. And a product that last year, of the top 50 TV shows, 46 were NFL games. 25 of the top 25. Isn't that incredible? And I'd like to think of Walt Disney as the happiest place on earth. That at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we have the most inspiring place on earth. Because one of the things when I came from Newport Beach, California, to Canton, I had no idea that almost every day, probably today, there's somebody visiting the Pro Football Hall of Fame who is terminally ill. Isn't that incredible? They've only got a certain number of months to live. And for whatever reason, before they die, they want to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's probably not what I would do. I would be with kids and grandkids. But for a lot of these people, they've watched it with their family. Here's a statistic that the NFL doesn't normally share. Of all those people who say that they're football fans, and there's 208 million of them in the United States, only 7% will ever go see an NFL game in person. 93% of us watch it on TV. Most of them watch it with their family. And maybe they saw somebody do something inspirational. Maybe they saw something, in the last minute of play that gave them hope. But over and over again, I've seen it down there. A good friend of mine is the number 2 guy at ESPN, and he sent me an email saying that one of his young employees had a dad who was terminally ill, would like to see the Pro Football Hall of Fame, so we of course took care of him. We let him in for free. We gave him a free t-shirt. We went down and took a picture with him, but there wasn't a whole lot you could do. We gave him a private tour, and she wrote back, and she said, our staff was great, it was a great tour, but she said, thank you for giving me the best day of my life that I will ever have with my dad. That's what I get to do. That's what the Pro Football Hall of Fame gets to be. Our mission at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, promote its values, and celebrate excellence everywhere. Not just, the excellence on the football field. It's not just the worship of football heroes, but it's taking what they've done and applying it to other things as well. That's the first thing you see when you come into our museum. But throughout the museum, you're going to see other values. This is the great Colleen who caught 19 passes in this game, had to be carried from the field in an epic game against Miami. He stands for commitment, integrity. Believe it or not, the inflation of the ball does matter. There's got to be a level playing field on both sides. There's got to be integrity of the rules. There's got to be integrity of your competition, integrity of your training, integrity of your commitment. Courage. This is the great Marion Motley, who actually went to Canton McKinley High School and reintegrated the NFL 2 years before Jackie Robinson ever stepped on the field. When the Akron Pros won that first championship 97 years ago, there were 2 African Americans in the league at that time. 28 years before Jackie Robinson ever played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And 2 years later, there was a gentleman named Fritz Pollard, an African American head coach, 26 years before Jackie Robinson. So this area has an incredible heritage of demonstrating courage, where the only thing that matters, as Martin Luther King says, his dream was someday that his 4 children would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And the only thing that matters is, can you help me get 1 more yard? Or if you're on defense, can you help me keep from getting 1 more yard? Respect. Guys today, my son will never be a Hall of Famer, but he made a lot of money standing on the shoulders of guys who came before him. But I will tell you that he plays not for that money, he played for respect. And every guy does. And that's one of the great things about football. When you get into that huddle, the only color that matters is what jersey you have on. And people come from all different kind of backgrounds. Their parents are from all different economics. But you come together as a team. It teaches you respect for yourself. It teaches you respect for your teammate. And ultimately, something magical happens where it teaches you respect for your opponent. And it's just an incredible thing, that has made this happen and really, in some respects, become the part of the fabric of our character as a nation. And then excellence. The great Vince Lombardi said, "You will never achieve perfection, but if you chase perfection, you might just capture excellence." And the important thing about this is these 5 qualities will not only make you a Hall of Fame football player, but they might just make you a Hall of Fame business person, or a cellist in the symphony, or a prima ballerina, or a great mother, or a great father. And they can certainly make us a great community. And if you want to know how to really make America great again, I think it's in qualities like this. Qualities that we teach on playing fields over and over again. Douglas MacArthur said that upon the fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that on different days and on different fields bear the fruit of victory. You know, and at the Pro Football Hall of Fame during enshrinement, there's a really cool time. It's called the Ray Nitschke Luncheon. It's only Hall of Famers. It's in a room a little smaller than this, but it's 130 of them. And it is impressive. It is palpable character in that room. But we also invite a couple recipients of the Medal of Honor. You know, last year there was a guy named Leroy Petrie. Leroy was in Fallujah. He had been shot in both legs. He was leaning up against the wall. 3 of his comrades were defending him in a triangle against about 25 of the enemy. A grenade comes into the middle. He leans over on his elbows because it's the only thing he's got left. He grabs the grenade and throws it away, but not before it severs his right hand. Where do you find guys like that? Good Lord. Another guy was Clinton Romeshay, who was, 5'0" from Seattle, loves the Seahawks. He was awarded the Medal of Honor for a 13-hour firefight, where he had, at one point, 41 soldiers, 31 of whom were wounded, against 300 of the enemy. At one point, he loses their position and then goes back and takes it back. Where do you find guys like that? Another guy was a guy named Woody Johnson, who was the last Medal of Honor recipient from Iwo Jima. Had a flamethrower on his back 21 times, goes across a battlefield, with a gasoline tank on his back, taking out machine gun nests. These are guys who will never be Hall of Famers. They never played in the NFL. But they learn this concept of team, this concept of discipline, this concept of commitment. Frankly, playing football or baseball or basketball. It's an important part of our culture. So our vision for the Pro Football Hall of Fame is that it's not really about the past. It's not just old helmets and old footballs under glass. It's really about passing that on to the next generation. And it's not just about bringing people to Canton, it's about taking this message of excellence out there to the world. And it's not just a great museum for football, it's really this message of excellence that can extend to anything that's out there. Our belief on the game of football is that, frankly, we protect the game by making it safer. That's rule changes, equipment, health protocols, but we grow the game by promoting its values. This is the reason why every parent should want their child to play sports, to learn competition, to learn some nobility, because later on in life, this is a tough world and you're going to need it. And then finally, we elevate the game by loving those who built it. And what we really want to do is we want to help every person experience a Hall of Fame life. Maybe not be an NFL Hall of Famer, but to have a Hall of Fame life. Because excellence in our business is messy. In yours it may be clean, it may be pristine, but in our business, there's snot coming out of your nose. Your blood, your sweat. Not every play is a positive yardage. You get thrown for a loss. But you huddle up, you come together as a community, as a family, and you attack that adversity together on the other side of that line. That is what makes America great. So, you may not know what it takes to make it to the Hall of Fame, but it's now one of the biggest honors in sports. I'm the guy that gets to knock on the door of those guys who make it in. Probably the coolest part of my job. But we've got 48 elite selectors. Peter King from Sports Illustrated, John Clayton or Sal Palantonio from ESPN. These are opinionated, strong-willed media guys. And I don't get a vote, but you kind of got to be 400 pounds to kind of handle these guys. Because at 7 o'clock, we're going to introduce 4 to 8 people as the new class for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And you got to get 80% of those 48 guys to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's an incredibly high bar. So what that means is of the well over 100 million young men and now women who've played this game, there's only been 2.2 million played in college. There's only 27,000 who've ever been paid to play it, coach it, officiate it, or administer it in the National Football League. And of that, there's only 303 who have a bronze bust that I'm told will last 40,000 years and can't go out. And of that, we only have 171 who are living today as examples of that kind of excellence. So what we're doing down in Canton now is doing something really special. We've got some wonderful partners like Wealthy, who is sponsoring our lunch today, and Don Taylor, who is heading up a project there with Industrial Realty Group, with HKS, who are the guys who designed Cowboy Stadium, the new Minnesota Stadium. They're doing Stan Kroenke Stadium for the Rams out in California, which will probably be the first $3 billion stadium. And, you know, they're designing something really special. It is going to be a Disneyland for football, I promise you. And when you think about Disneyland, you know, I grew up about 10 miles from Anaheim. Walt Disney did it on the backs of a cartoon mouse. He had a TV show, 1 hour, that some of us are old enough to remember, on Sunday night. But he didn't have 46 of the top 50 TV shows last year. He didn't have 32 clubs that could help co-market this. He didn't have 303 legends or 371 living legends. He didn't have 4 network partners. He didn't have the standard of excellence that you have in Canton. So we think we've got a tremendous opportunity here, and we're building upon it. This is about a $600 million project that Don Taylor is heading up for us there with Industrial Realty Group. It has about 9 different components in it. What Williamsport is to Little League Baseball, this will be to football, soccer, and lacrosse. It'll be about 12 fields together. It'll have a center for excellence that will be for athletic performance and safety and medical research that we're talking to some of the folks here on. It'll have Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium, which will no longer be a high school stadium in which an NFL game is going to be played. This is going to be a sports and entertainment complex where incredible events are going to occur. And it is a very unique, very intimate 25,000 seat stadium. It's going to have certainly the Hall of Fame, a retail center there. It's going to have a hotel that will be like nothing in the Midwest. It will be a spectacular 5-star football-themed hotel. It'll also have a player care center for players who are rehabbing, who have addiction problems, or frankly, who are seniors who are retired. You know, so would you rather be in a warehouse for dying that is an assisted living facility, or would you rather be in an assisted living sports bar? Yeah, having the time of your life. We also will have a place called the Hall of Fame Experience, and this will be Disneyland for football. We've got an experience that is a holographic locker room that is now at the hall that opened up in July. You should come give it a try, because most of the great lessons we learn in sports happen in that locker room. And while they might have been talking about the second half, frankly, later on when you were fighting for your marriage, or surviving a divorce, or fighting to make payroll on Friday, or an ethical crisis, frankly, what that coach said meant everything to you in your life. And so it's wonderful stuff from Alan Page and Curtis Martin, Jim Brown, Jim Kelly in fighting cancer. And it's a great place to come and be inspired. But this is going to be pretty special. And, you know, Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium is going to have a lot of things in there, from concerts and entertainment. to outstanding football events. We're going to make an announcement tomorrow, which is why I got to get on a plane today, that we think will be very, very special. It brings capital into the area and other people getting behind this so that this will be the very best sports and entertainment facility in the world. I believe that. This is the hotel. You can see a little bit of how special that's going to be. So there's going to be a lot of activity here. I just wanted to end with a couple things, because I know a lot of you are in business. But here's the team principles that we use at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The first one is to be a believer. You know, the first requirement for being on a team is being committed to something that is bigger than you are. And if you don't believe in our mission statement at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you don't get to play on that team. But if you do, we're going to play it every down. You know, the second thing is to grow every day. You know, growth is what really makes you happy. If you're growing, our business is growing. So we got to invest in our people and help them grow. When I was commissioner of the Arena Football League, I believed that if my secretary was growing or my receptionist, our business was growing. And I got a secretary who is now senior vice president of sponsorship and marketing for the NFL. She's responsible for $1 billion of revenue and has 140 people working for her. You can never know what happens when people grows. It's so exciting. And then, you know, by the same point, it's to be a team player. It's not just about you. The greatest experiences I've ever had was when this magical miracle happens, when by giving yourself up to something that's bigger than yourself, you actually gain relevance. You don't lose it. So how can you be a team player? We've got a lot of team players. I know some folks are here from Goodyear who are with us here today. And they've done a partnership this month where every veteran who served in the month of November can get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame for free because of Goodyear. You know, that's great for Goodyear. Isn't that outstanding? That's great for them. That's great for our veterans. It's great for the Hall of Fame. Those are the kind of team players that you want in your life. And then you want to do it better than it's ever been done before. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is 53 years old. The National Football League is now 97 years. In 3 years, it'll be 100 years old. But the goal here isn't to do it the same. It's to do it better than it's ever been done before. To make a difference every day in the lives of others. That's our opportunity. That's this ecumenical church of football. To not only make money, but to have fun and do good and make money all at the same time is a big element of what we try to do. And lastly, to love. You know, at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we spend a lot of time talking about love. I know in my life I've spent a lot of money trying to find love. You know, what you really do is you give yourself to others. And if you love what you're doing, all that money will come with it. So these are the things that, you know, kind of our playbook at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And that's why we think it's the most inspiring place on earth. And we think that there's something special that's happening, and we'd invite you to be a part of it. When I was at the last Super Bowl, we had some wonderful things happen, a great class. It took 10 hours to select the class. It only took 10 seconds to select Brett Favre. We took him over, we had him be introduced, and he came out afterwards, and we're doing a press conference, and I'm administering the press conference, and I turned to Brett and I said, "How you doing?" He says, "Are you kidding?" He says, "I just shook the hand of Roger Staubach." And I said, "You guys didn't know each other?" And he says, "No, you don't understand. When I was a kid, I dreamed of being Roger Staubach." And every kid, even our heroes, have a dream. And the question is, how can we take the values that made Damani Nas and the great Hall of Fame Center for the Pittsburgh Steelers and drive them into that next generation of young men and young women? And that's what we get to do. So the next day we're having breakfast because we take our Hall of Famers out and introduce them out at the Super Bowl at the first quarter break. And we're wrapping up with breakfast, and a mother comes over and she recognizes me, and a young guy who's about 10 years old says, "Hey, can I get my picture taken with you?" And I'm thinking he thinks I'm a football player, and I said, "You may want Brett Favre," and he says, "No, you're with the Hall of Fame." And of course, I was so happy to get my picture taken with this guy. But I turned to Pete and I said, hey Pete, have you got a lapel pin, for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, just like the one I'm wearing here? And he dug in his bag and gave me one, and he turned to it, and being a lawyer, I knew that I shouldn't stick it on the kid because I would hurt him. I gave it to the mother. And then the coolest thing happened. And I was just close enough where you are today where I could hear her. She leaned over and she put it on his t-shirt. And she said, okay, son, now you have to live a life of character. Now you have to live a life of character. That's what we stand for. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're privileged to serve. God bless you. Thank you very much.
David has graciously agreed to respond to questions submitted by our audience. You may still send questions via your mobile devices using the Asker technology, and instructions for using Asker can be found in the brochures at your table. You may also submit written questions using the note cards provided at each of the tables. Please raise those cards to be collected. And David Hunter, partner Ross McDowell, and Program Committee Chair and Secretary of the Board of Directors of Akron Roundtable will present your question. David?
Thank you. We'll go ahead and get started right away here. Here's a question from somebody in our audience. They're saying, David, as the father of a professional football player, what would you say to those parents who are hesitant about letting their children play football?
It's a great question, and it's one I get often. Both my boys played football. One played at USC for Pete Carroll, where they had the NC2A record at the time of 35 straight wins. The other one played at Duke, where they had the NC2A record of 22 straight losses. But both of them learned the same lessons. And when I came to this job, I was concerned as a father, that maybe, brain injury, concussion injury, other things that were there. I don't want my kids to be hurt. And there is some risk in doing it. But I will tell you that since I've been here, except for Charlie Sanders, who died of cancer at 71, most of the guys that I go to their funerals, sometimes I have the solemn responsibility of officiating their funeral. Most of those guys are in their late 80s or 90s. And as we've looked at it, frankly, I think there's significant studies that say if you want your child to live longer, be healthier, and have a longer quality of life, they should play football. But they should certainly learn competition. But I think that's certainly every parent's choice and responsibility. Every young man's choice, and now young women who are playing it as well.
We have a couple of questions about the expansion of facilities in Canton. And we had a question from the audience here about the fact that you had listed the amenities and the buildings on campus. But what are the highest and first priorities? And can you give us a timeline that you are envisioning now for completion of this expansion?
I think a lot of the attention has been on the stadium itself, which is, again, going to be, it'll be a small venue NFL stadium. But I think that the other things that are coming, the hotel, the Center for Excellence, the Hall of Fame experience, are really going to be outstanding. They're going to have a bigger impact on this region than even the stadium from that standpoint. The playing fields, we've got 3 of the playing fields already done. We're going to add 2 more next year, and then the following year we'll have 11 done. And our studies are that we should have about 180,000 athletes, and then of course their family members, visiting every year between Memorial Day and Labor Day. And tourism is the best economic engine because it's other people's money that's coming here and being invested in your community. Buying your gasoline, spending money at your stores. Our goal here is to have all of this first phase done in 2019, where we hope to work with the Browns and host the NFL draft here for the NFL's 100th season. And then it's September 17th of 2020, that'll be the NFL centennial. And everything this year was about Super Bowl 50, and you heard a lot about Super Bowl 50. Well, I think when you get to that centennial, it's going to make Super Bowl 50 pale by comparison.
It's been widely reported that there's been somewhat of a droop in the TV ratings for NFL football. I know you're not the commissioner of the National Football League, but you're a high-ranking, influential person in the sport. Could you comment on issues such as head injury, concussion, domestic issues involving players, silent protests by players before the games begin, and even verbal reports by players saying that some of these rule changes have frankly made the game less fun?
Well, I would say, first of all, again, the statistic that I recited earlier, that 46 of the top 50 TV shows last year, certainly in the fall, were NFL games. But this year, we've had this thing called the election. And I think it sucked a lot of the wind out of that in a big way. Since the election, NFL ratings have been up about 22% over last year. So I think we're all kind of recovering from the elections and getting back to it. But there are a lot of issues. Certainly, Colleen Kaepernick is one of those issues. And I, like most of you, probably went through the thing where, you know, I was personally offended, you know, that he wouldn't stand for the flag. But I also respect the fact that, and I've talked to a number of athletes themselves, that he has that right. And I do think that this concept of huddling up, you know, helps us understand that if we all get together and understand each other's viewpoints, we're going to be better off. And so I think the game in some respects is stronger than it's ever been, and it's going to continue to grow.
We have several more questions, as you might imagine, but occasionally we have a playful moment at Akron Roundtable, so I'm going to just interject a riddle here. You had reminded us that Akron was the first NFL champion team, but do you know why Akron doesn't have a professional football team currently? You know? Akron doesn't have a professional football team because if it did, then Cleveland would want to have one too. A member of our audience wants to know, during your service as chairman of the hall there as president, what has been the most challenging job and also the most rewarding job that you've undertaken in your college?
You know, I can tell you that pretty quickly I can get to the most rewarding. We have a ring ceremony where each enshrinee, living enshrinee, receives a gold jacket and bronze bust, and they also get a ring of excellence that is designed by Kay Jewelers, who's, you know, just outside Akron here. But we went back and gave that same ring to the former players. And so I've given that ring to Y.E. Tittle in San Francisco. I've given it to Hugh McElhaney and to Bob Sinclair. Charlie Trippi, who's 97 years old, by the way, at the University of Georgia. But to see these guys listen to the crowd one more time is the coolest thing in the world. And I should be paying others to do that. I think, you know, my hardest job is trying to find time to sleep. Because this is so exciting. My wife and I still own a lot of that project back in Henderson, Nevada. And I spend very little time on it because I think what we are doing here has such an opportunity to change this community, to change the game, to change our youth for tomorrow, to remember the guys who played the game, that I would work at it 25 hours a day if I could. So it's just a privilege to be there.
We have several questions regarding the renovation of the football facility there. Questions relate on this vein. Would there be more than one preseason game possibly played there? Could it also serve as the site of maybe, say, the Division III Alonzo Stagg Bowl Championship? Other uses like that, if you could elaborate on that.
You know, we've actually made an application for the Division III Championship for the NC2A. The Ohio State Athletic Association has moved for the next 3 years the high school football championships back to Canton. I think the Black College Football Hall of Fame has made its permanent home at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we will have their classic game there. We're looking to have some of the best high school teams in the nation to come play, some of our best teams in Ohio. But we're also going to have a lot of concerts, a lot of entertainment and other stuff as well.
We're running a little over. We have time for one more question. But I should point out, not only are we getting questions, we're getting cards of congratulations thanking you for being here. I wanted to point that out. And we'll close with this question. One member of our audience asked, what is your favorite Super Bowl game?
He's not going to like this. No, Pete, I'm not going to say Buffalo. Any of the 4 Buffalo losses. But I'll tell you this for a different reason. In Super Bowl 49, where in the last second, Butler, kind of crossed on a goal line play and intercepted a pass from Russell Wilson. And everybody in the world, there's the old joke that Pete Carroll was going to resign and work for the Pope because he's the only guy who, caused 100 million people to raise their hands and say Jesus Christ at the same time. But I know Pete, and I know him well. He's the most positive man alive. And I actually thought, if anybody can make a positive out of this, this guy can. And I think he has. And that is what I love about the game. My son's favorite game of all time was a game against Trent Cole in Philadelphia on Sunday Night TV, where he had 51 and ones against this incredible player. And he was getting beat up and bruised. But in the end, he hung in there. He stayed with it. He endured. And in the end, they scored on the last second to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. That's what this game can teach us. That's why I think we all love it so much. It's because it's a Shakespearean play every time. It has victory, it has defeat, it has lessons we can learn, it has opportunities to come together. And as a community, that's what we need. That's why I think Northeast Ohio is such a special place. That's why I think you're experiencing such a real renaissance right now. So thank you. It's a great honor to be here, and a great privilege to be here serving you. Thank you.